Welcome to the Circle Star Firearms and Outdoors podcast, your home for the latest products and news in the shooting sports, hunting, and the great outdoors. And now, here are your hosts, Jake Cawthon and Jason Westmoreland.
Hey everybody, it is Jake and Jason and Frank Beard here. Us from Circle Star Firearms and Outdoors, Frank from B7B Taxidermy, our favorite taxidermist.
He's by far our favorite taxidermist.
But yeah, and but we're here. We're here. We've been scrambling, getting ready to put these shows together. Had a lot going on since the last show.
And we apologize. There's people that message us like, "Hey, you gonna do another one? My drive to work sucks because I don't get to listen to you guys." I get it. I'm sorry. It's summertime. Families want to go on vacation.
Well, we had a hurricane too.
And a hurricane.
I think we are
Did
forgetting
a little
that.
hurricane.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so we got a little behind on it.
And Jake's temperament was a little like a hurricane. We had to let him settle down a little bit before we could do this one.
Yeah,
He's a little raw.
I'll say less no words this time. I guarantee you that.
So for those of y'all who listened to we'll hop right in. For those of y'all who listened to the last episode, we left on a cliffhanger. Jake and Frank were going on an axis hunt to get a monster.
Yeah.
And, I don't think an axis had ever been on Jake's bucket list, but he knows it's one on mine.
Yep.
So that became his
Now it's number one.
his primary target. And, karma's a bitch. So, guys, I wasn't there.
There's a lot to this.
Yeah, that's what I'll say. We're about to unpack some stuff here. I think.
Y'all were. I wasn't there.
There's
so
going to be trauma. We're going to do some childhood trauma. There's everything.
I'm just going to sit back and listen a little bit, and I'll just interject with, little every once in a while.
All right, so
I was about to say, do you want to start?
I'll start it off,
right.
right? So,
Are you going to correct this?
That's what I'm thinking I'm going to do. I'm just going to throw in my tidbits, because I wasn't behind the scope. I wasn't, I'm looking through binoculars and trying to video. But
and the problem is a lot of it's on the guide, right? That's his job here.
yeah, because our job as a guide is to, number one,
This is going to be
to make sure it's a good time, a successful.
and I made sure we were having a great time. I mean, you only got sour later.
No, that was sour. All right, so we're spoiling it.
Yeah, sorry.
We'd make horrible movie critics.
Yes, we would.
So, all right. So, Frank and I, a couple months ago, we make a little agreement because they got this piece of property that has a bunch of really nice deer. Because we've talked to his uncle Nick about the breeding facility or the breeder deer and the herd management they've done out there. We talked to Trey Rigby, Axis addict, who's been out there before. Talked to Frank about this place, so you know it, right? And so I set a little deal up because Jason's right.
such a turd, man.
Any chance I try to take a little of his joy away, I jump at it, right? And so we set it up to shoot this monster axis.
And I just want him to be happy. He's so mean. Dude. I don't know where this comes from. He was touched in a bad place as a child or something. Like while playing Monopoly.
So we go out a lot of times, and it is a beautiful piece of property. His dad lives out. His parents live out there. It's manicured. It's as close as you could get to living in probably like a nature preserve because there's everything. The moment you pull up, the house is nice. There's a pond. There's ducks swimming in it. You can see peacocks and you can hear peacocks. Cause, good gosh, they're annoyingly loud. And so we go several times because we're being very selective. We're not in a big rush to shoot like a specific one, right? Not like we have a little window. We had time, and so we go out and I come back with photos. So I like, look at this big one. He said it's too small. Or one day we went out there, didn't see any axes, which was kind of funny, but we saw nothing but like 160 to 210 whitetail. That's just monster whitetail. And I'm having a great time because every time I went, except this one, my son went with me and he's part of it. And we're looking at photos and he's looking with my binoculars and having all the time. And so it was great, right? And I was having a good time. And then
Third time the charm.
Third time was the charm.
It was the third time. Yeah.
So we go back out and we set up and they put out.
It's just me and Jake at this point.
Yep, just me and old Frank here. And his daddy goes out and puts out some feed and takes off. And we go about this one a little different because beforehand we would kind of drive around and look. And, this time we came in a little more
early. We got there quite a bit earlier than we had before. And we had a plan.
We snuck in a little different.
Yeah, we did. We got dropped off and we're like, we're just going to sit and be real quiet enjoy our beverages, and just kind of take in nature. Like, I think we had at one point, it was somewhere around 30 whitetail.
Oh,
Wow.
I mean, bucks, does, fawns, just everything in between in front of us. And we're taking pictures and looking and, what do you think about just doing guy stuff.
Like, hey, I'm not a big fan of this horn style, but I think this one's really good looking. And right now, the bucks aren't real swole up because, obviously middle of summer, not the rut. And I'm like, he's like, yeah, that's a 5-year-old deer. I'm like, there's no way that's a 5-year-old deer. That's 3-year-old. He's like, watch it. It's 5-year-old deer. I know my deer.
Yeah.
And so we get out there, and some of this, I don't want to blame Frank for it, right?
God.
I'll put undue burdens on people that I had.
Where are you going with this? Because I have no idea.
So I had built a brand new rifle, untested, unproven, has no blood on it yet, right? We just and I'll tell about it because we've talked about it. It's my 7 PRC, new round, super hot, supposed to kill elk like a mile and a half away, and all this fancy stuff. And so I built a really nice one. So it was R action, proof research barrel, carbon fiber stock, top of line trigger tech trigger. It's got a Hornady Razor Light Hunter on top of it. It is nice.
It is a very nice
And
rifle.
I have probably 20 rounds through it just to break it in.
Is it nice or is it
zero
pretty?
Let's go with pretty.
Okay.
Let's go with pretty.
It's a real pretty knife.
Yeah.
Right.
We'll get there.
We locked him up already.
No, because I'm trying to paint a mental image.
Oh, you're
All right,
painting it.
okay, all right.
I'm like Bob Ross with words. I got to give it a chance. And so so far I've killed most of my stuff with the 6.5 Creedmoor. I love my 6.5 Creedmoor. It's a hammer. It's a killer. It's awesome. That's what I was going to run with. But Frank's like, no. Take that 7. You got to get some blood on it. We'll break it in. I was like,
Well, let me
And
back
I-
up just a second. Hold on. Let me defend myself for just a second.
no.
There was a couple of reasons I still am a little curious about 7 PRC because for people that don't know, basically a 7 PRC is a 7 mag on steroids.
Yep.
That's am I right, gun guys? Yep. And actually Trey Rigby, the Axis Addict, is building a 7 PRC, and he was super curious. So then he got me kind of curious about it. So I'm like, this is the perfect test.
Oh, yeah.
We're about to hopefully kill a 300-pound Axis deer.
Oh, yeah.
Let's see what it does.
Uh-huh.
This is your test right here.
And so this is where it starts to go awry. And it's one of those situations that you don't know it was like a vital clue until later, right? And, I've always talked about this, back to my law enforcement days. You don't know really what piece of the puzzle at the time, how this little piece will put into the whole picture, but you have to be able to remember the little details and all the things. Now remember, we're sitting there and I'm talking to him about 2 hunts prior to this. He's like, yep. He's like, yeah, one of the worst things that ever happened out here. We had a guy with a 7 mag shoot a whitetail.
Oh, Axis.
Shot an Axis with a 7 mag, just lost it. I had to find it 3 days later with the buzzards. I'm like, well, that sucks. He's like, yep, the only time it's ever really happened out here. I'm like, oh, okay.
Why do I feel like so much blame is being pointed at me right
And he just said 7 PRC.
Were you there when the
7
7 PRC, the guy made the 7 mag when the guy shot it?
I was.
Did you see where the shot hit?
Yeah,
Did you feel like it was a solid shot?
100%.
Really?
I'll show you a picture of it, and if y'all want to, you can put it on
So we
social
just-
media
we
and stuff.
just hating the
I mean,
sevens.
that one too, and I did tell Jake this. There was a couple things that went wrong with that one. Number one, we were out of a vehicle, which we never do hardly, and the only reason we were out of a vehicle is because that guy had been there like 4 days, and it was kind of like now or never. Mm-hmm. He hits the deer. And it was a solid shot, everything like that. But what we didn't do was give the deer time. We ended up kind of pushing the deer, and then we had a great blood trail, and then a freaking monsoon came. And when I mean a monsoon, I mean like an inch in like 45 minutes. So the blood was gone.
Yeah.
So that, I'm not going to blame the rifle.
He puts this little black cloud on the horizon.
Sure. Well, and I will say, I personally, there was a part of black juju that hit me that day as well. So I had to go into Houston
Which is always,
to the shop.
always bad juju.
Right. And I have a dog that is like, he's my best friend, and he's like, I trust him more than anybody I would trust to find a wounded animal. And I swear that dog looked at my soul that morning and was like, are you sure you don't want me to go? And I told him, no, it's all good. Just, but anyhow, we'll come back to, we'll get to that later.
So we're in the blind. We'll skip forward a little in time. Back. We'll catch back up to real time. So
Frank didn't know.
We're sitting in the
go
blind.
get the script flipped on you. Yeah, he's coming at you.
I'm not taking all the blame on
I'm
this
not.
sucker.
Hey, I'm about to circle it back to me. Don't worry. I'm painting the picture.
Okay.
So we're sitting in the blind, and it's the very end of their rut or their roar, right?
Yeah, the roar.
And so you can hear them in the background, and we're sitting there looking through the brush because having a good time staring at these deer, and you can start seeing them. This whole herd of them come into the feeder, and when I say a herd, there's like 30 of them.
Oh, at least.
So now there's like still probably 15 or 20 whitetail, and there's all these axes out there, and they're kind of fighting over the food we put out, and
I spotted. I don't
could
want
see
to cut
him,
you off,
right?
but
You
could see like that is the buck we want to get a good look at.
Because Frank was sitting a little to my right, and I, obviously where I was, and you could look through the brush and you could see him, and the big ones always kind of hang towards the back. They're a little more cautious.
They're kind of like pigs. They act a lot like pigs. They send
typical.
the young dumb ones out first,
Yeah.
and then the does, and then the younger bucks, and it's just a big chain. And he was by far the last one in there.
And so I'm looking at him, I'm like, oh, that's a pretty good one. I'm like, that's a pretty good one. And he's like, hold on. And then he stepped down. I was like, oh, those suck. I was like, in comparison, I'm like, man, that's a good look. And so we sit there and we kind of pick it apart, right? How good are his fronts, how deep are his caudals, how long the main beam, how heavy, how wide, all the little things to make sure, like, this is the one.
Is that all you were asking? Like, before you pulled the trigger? Is that what you were most concerned about before you pulled the damn trigger? Was was it his caudals and everything, or was it? Could it have been? Are we sure that Jason can't kill a bigger one than this?
It was that. And so far was.
I think that was the main question.
I asked him. I wanted to put like a little laser beam in his mouth, so when you walked by, it's like, "You'll never beat me. You'll never beat me. You'll never beat me." I wanted to talk to you.
God, I mean, we had a 5 to 10 minute conversation about, are you sure that Jason can't beat this deer?
He's
Like,
like,
what are his chances of killing a bear?
What did I do to you, buddy?
I'm like, bro. I'm like, and finally, I'm just like, Jake, I mean, I would shoot the deer. It's a great deer. He's very mature. Like, he's got everything we're looking for. If you like it, shoot it. I'm like, I don't know what you want me to tell you. Like,
is there a bigger one out here? Would Jason have access to a bigger? That's all I asked.
and I said his chances of killing one with a bow are very slim.
Yeah. Either way.
That's the truth.
So-
I'm not trying to.
So
No.
at that point, I'm like, you know what? He's gorgeous. He's heavy. He's wide. Looks great.
Well,
big body.
I think what sold it for me was when he got out kind of in the middle of this. We're looking down this like oak sendero kind of thing, what's planted, and he's running these other bucks that are decent deer. I mean, they're all 30, 31 inch deer, and he's just treating them like kind of like garbage.
Oh yeah.
I mean, he's like, you're getting too close to my doe, and he'll run them off. And he
Big
did that
Daddy.
about 3 or 4 times, and he stood kind of in the middle broadside by himself, and it was just like, it clicked in my head, like, I don't know what this guy's looking for, but God, that's gonna be hard to beat.
And I mean, he's big bodied, good looking. The coat was beautiful, the right color. He was everything if you could just like paint an axis, like an ideal looking axis, is what this one looked like. It was beautiful. And so about that time, I was like, all right, cool. I like this one. He's pretty. I don't know anything more about axis besides, hey, I like this one. So here we go. And so, I look through the scope. I wait for him to get just right. And where the first place I know I went wrong, and I kind of knew this going in, that I am not a huge fan of the Hornady ELDX bullet, the projectile itself. I've killed a bunch of stuff with the match, which is a thinner copper jacketed bullet, and that it does break apart a little faster than the X does, because the X is designed to hold itself a little longer. But in my mind, and especially in the 6.5 Creedmoor, that's kind of how I was relating it to. But in my mind, it's a heavier bullet. It's 175 grain. It's going faster. It's out of a bigger cartridge. I was like, I think it is going to do just fine. And we in the episode with Kobe about talking about reloading, we talked about picking the right bullet to kind of the need. And since I didn't really know Axis that well, I was like, this one's probably going to be fine.
Well, and I will say this too in your defense about the bullet. It's not like you have a lot of options.
No, there's not.
I mean, what is the options in a 7?
I had zeroed it out to the match or the X already. It was ready to go, and I was like, and I had about a half a box of unshot ammo. I was like, I think it's going to be fine.
And I guess looking back, if I was to say something I did wrong as a guide, honestly, knowing what I know about an Axis deer, I would have told you. I thought we had a conversation. I thought I told you to shoot it square in the shoulder. Like, did we not? Did I not say that? No? Okay.
And
maybe I didn't.
And post that, and I'll pause.
Yeah, but he should have known not to shoot it in the leg.
Yeah.
God.
But see, I had a conversation. No, but I did start kicking myself that night, and we'll get to what happened in a second. Is that one of our customers came in and he had a similar situation, and he said that he shoots all his Axis about center body, and he's never lost one like that. He goes, I put the good shot on, and he goes, just the way their organs are structured,
center body,
like right there, like just a little about where Travis shot his.
Okay.
A little higher, a little further back than what would you aim in a whitetail, but
okay.
And where I did, I'm never shot an Axis before. I have learned so much more about these animals and how crazy they are, especially in our second episode we're going to talk about with Travis's situation, is that I wasn't I probably should have Googled their anatomy, but I didn't. But where everything is positioned, because animals are where stuff sits is different species to species, but I'm used to shooting whitetail. I lined up exactly where I shoot a whitetail, kind of low shoulder, like right behind where the
crease. I would call it the crease.
Yeah, right.
Armpit.
Exactly,
armpit.
right in the armpit. And I was like, "There's the hard shot. Ready, 1, 2, 3, boom!" And we shoot it, and this is where my night starts to suck. So we watch it. Frank's videotaping it. It locks up. It does the whole like straight leg run, like you put a good hit on it, because it rears back and it does the whole thing. And in the video, when you slow it down, you see his whole body ripple. Like you can see the impact just wallop, and it takes off to the right. Heck yeah!
High-fiving.
Axis down.
I'm pretty sure we high-fived, and I was like, let's just give it like 15 minutes. It's like he's gonna be
like right there.
Right there.
And so, it's high fives and handshakes, and we're calling like, "Hey, we need you down here with the buggy to come get the deer," and the whole thing. And that was short-lived. Very short-lived.
Extremely.
So, we grab all our stuff, and we get down there.
This is so awesome.
It does. It gets super sad.
It is sad. Like
if this was a VH1 behind the music, like this is when like it would go to a minor chord.
All I like to see is like the little Karma baby in front of me dancing, like doing this little bachaka. Ooh, bachaka.
It was. So, we get down there and both of us, we expected to be about 50, 60 yards, just white belly up right there. And we get down there and we're like, hey, where the hell is he at?
Well, and also we should probably paint this picture for the people that can't see it.
Sure.
So as I said, it's like a oak right away that you can see about 300 yards on. And it's basically as wide as like a road, a county road. And the brush is so thick and green right now at that time of year when pretty much the deer gets just outside of that road, kind of either direction. you can't see it.
And
Like it just, it's just thick.
it's because there's trees in the way that blocking our view from where we shot from. It's not because it's into like super thick stuff. It's tall grass, but it's just
more trees, lots and lots of big oak trees.
Yeah, it's just our position changes it. And so we get down there, and obviously no white belly. And we start looking. It's like, hey, what happened? I was like, and I'm shooting with the suppressor, and we're both like, I heard the hit. I know what a hit and a miss sounds like. It's like I hit that deer. I know I hit that deer. I hit exactly where I was aiming, and Frank was filming it. We start playing the video back and forth. I'm like,
we're zooming in, we're slowing it down. I sent it to Jason. I mean, I'm sending it to freaking everybody I know that's an outfitter and be like, what do you think?
Like if you slow it down like at the right spot, you could actually see the dust from the exit.
Yeah.
I'm like, this deer's hit well. Like,
and I'm going to tell you, that is the other part that just blows my mind is how we couldn't find a speck of hair, a speck of blood. I mean, literally, one of the guys that was helping us look was crawling on his hands and knees for 45 minutes.
Yeah, he brought a special black light out to, we found a lot of scorpions and, like crickets and stuff. But I try to help find, we start trying everything we can because we're sitting there doing little concentric circles and find, there's only so many places it could go. We start trying to,
Yeah, basically we started going with the wind in our face and making big, wide circles. And at one point there was 4 of us with a dog. And then we had another dog brought to us and there was 4 of us as well. And I think we ended up putting in right around 5 hours.
Wow.
I mean,
that's a good guide right there.
It was hard. And I tell you, every time we would always kind of make these bigger and wider loops, and I kept going further and further with the dog. And I mean, he never really cued on anything, I mean, it just nothing. We never found a speck of blood. God, it was the most heart-wrenching thing. I've never felt so bad for someone. I mean, I couldn't imagine what you were mentally going through because I will tell you, at one point, I kind of patted you on the back and made a lighthearted joke about it, and there was none of it. Like, he was having none of it. He's like, okay, explain to me what happened with the guy that shot the 7mm. And I had to replay that entire story,
Because I'm trying to problem solve this in my mind.
Dissecting this video like we're freaking CSI over here. And, I mean, nothing. We could come to no conclusion of why that deer was not dead.
Well, let me break that. I did. I think I probably showed my ass just a little bit because I was not very pleasant. But I think for how I was feeling, I did a really decent job of
no, absolutely
keeping it in.
I wasn't meaning you were acting appropriate for the situation probably.
And here's the why behind it, right? Because I started to feel bad because y'all invited me to come out and to take this really nice animal, one of y'all's best ones out there, and your dad spends so much time and effort and care and everything he goes through to raise such a great herd that it's becoming more and more and more obvious that, hey, we might lose this deer or it's injured or whatever the scenario may be. And so there was a little bit of embarrassment in that because I started kind of like, hey, this is not, as a hunter, there will always be situations where you wound or lose or something happens. But
sadly, it's part of the game.
It is.
I mean, really, the longer you play it, it's gonna happen.
But I always felt like I'm a good shot, and I would say above average hunter for the most part. And it's like it shouldn't happen.
What is your vote? What is your vote, Jesus? Well, no, I mean I agree with him. I mean, Jesus said you sell guns for a living. You've been around guns 99% of your life. I mean, is an axis deer different than a whitetail? Of course, but it's not that freaking different.
And for me, because
it's not like we were out there shooting an elephant.
Yeah, it's true. But at the same time, one of the guys says something like, well, at least we'll still find the horns no matter what. And
dude, he loses it.
I did.
he wasn't having that.
And it's
He actually, I think you were more upset about losing the meat.
that's what I was getting to. If there was, let's see, if it's 300 pounds, let's say you get 60% of that. There's 180, 190 pounds of like probably top 2 or 3 meat globally. Just the taste and the quality and every and desirability of it, and it's just gone. And I'm like,
And I don't know. It was just mind blowing that we couldn't find any blood, and
not a drop, no
with 2
hair.
different dogs.
And when we say we go back and start trying to, I think you keyed on something perfect on the CSI side of it. I mean, we're sitting there going, we go all the way back to the blind where we were sitting at, and we're watching the video and going, okay.
From the blind.
Yeah. Okay, this
While
is that.
somebody is with a freaking spotlight where we think we shot it.
So we're like, okay, that's that tree in the video. Okay, and then I see this angle tree here. So, okay, he goes in front of this tree, but not in front of this one. So he has to be going, okay. Now, all right, let's get down there real fast. And it's this tree here, but not. So he has to be going this direction.
Yeah.
I mean, we're coming up with everything we can. And, I mean, I will give it credit to y'all, is that we crawled under and through.
God, the most god-awful stuff. And
a couple of things. One, I could tell you that for 100% fact there was access going through these places because I found a shed at one point.
Yep.
But
you could you could smell it too. Like you could literally smell the rut on the freaking deer when we were in some of the bedding spots, and there was no doubt they lived there. Like there none.
And then so
I mean, I ended up walking at one point. I think I went around from actual point of contact of shot. It was about 600 yards, and I made a massive loop around one of our main big lakes. Because axis deer have a tendency when they're wounded, especially if they're gut shot, which this deer wasn't, but they just go to water because that's their, that's what they have in India, I guess, to get away from predators is water.
Yeah, whitetails do the same thing when they're wounded. A lot of times, just go straight to the water.
That's true. So I made a massive loop with my dog around the water, and I mean, I saw a bunch of animals, just not the right one.
And the dog helped a lot. I felt because you could kind of tell where they were going, and he was able to get quickly through a bunch of stuff that we just couldn't. Because in case it laid its horns back and just like pile drove into a bunch of thick nonsense,
he was going to find it.
He was going to find it, and the hardest part of it is I think with no true point of origin or nothing for him to initially key off of. He just like there's so much scent because there were just 60 animals there.
Oh yeah,
like. Everything
and that's what I kept telling you. It was like if we could have found, or if he could have found a drop of blood, he would have stayed on it because that's a totally different scent for him versus this deer print or that deer print or whatever. And looking back now that we know more, kind of less, the path that the deer ended up taking and where he eventually died, which still is a little. No, it's not a little. It's a lot mind-boggling to me.
Well, we still got a whole step in between there.
Oh, yeah.
But so we, and I give it. It was David that was there, right?
Yep, David Free. Oh.
So it's the three of us. We stick it out till like 11:30 midnight, something like that, and search.
And we shot. We should preface this. We shot the deer at like 8:05.
Yeah, and so we search and search and search and nothing. I'm determined to find it.
Yeah.
We all are, right?
At this point, I just wanted to find
something.
Actually, any sign that he had hit it, because now
you start second guessing.
I'm completely second guessing. Well, maybe I didn't hear a shot. Maybe he hit a tree. Maybe he hit this. No. And like I even started. I didn't tell you this, but I even started going back looking like maybe he shot the freaking maybe you did shoot a tree, and that's what I heard the impact.
Yeah.
So I'm really CSI in this and breaking it down.
I've been there before. You don't see the tree halfway down, between you and the animal, and it hits something. I've had that happen bow hunting.
Oh. Like a limb being in the way?
Yeah. You're too focused on the target. You don't see it in the middle ground.
Yeah, because your crosshairs take it up.
And so we decided to give it up. Obviously, the dog's hot and tired now. We're not finding anything.
So I got to ask, so when you're the heavy shit, most miserable, about to call it, just miserable. Who made the comment that looks like Jason's going to get a bigger axis than you? That shit's awesome.
So that was the guy that works for me. His name is Choppa.
Choppa.
Oh, Choppa.
Man, you gotta love Choppa.
And I'll tell you what.
He was fun to drink with.
Oh, no. Choppa was trying to lighten the mood. And I will say this. If he would have been within arm reach of Jake, I think he would have hit him.
I would have.
Because I giggled and got to Jake about 3 steps later, and he's like, no, fuck that. Let's look at this video again.
For a flash, I saw nothing but red.
Yeah. I was like, Chama, go look over there, bud.
And I get it. I knew exactly for a second, like a good heartbeat passed, and I was like, I get what he's doing, but that made me mad.
Yeah.
But it's true, right?
Yeah.
And that's when they're like, well, at least we'll always find the horns. And that's when I'm like, then I'm like, I get that, but I'm really pissed off about the meat. So it gets to about midnight. We're not having any luck, unfortunately. My heart sinks.
And this was on Friday? I think it was Friday night.
No, that was Saturday. It was a Friday.
It was Friday.
Yeah, because I had to be at work the next morning, and so
little ray of sunshine walks in the front door.
Oh, dude, I couldn't imagine working with him.
He showed me the video. With that, I'd already watched 100 times since.
I have a question. Did you pull it up on a computer though? Like, did you bring the video on a computer?
I have not. No, I keep watching on my phone.
God, I would be so curious to see that.
We do it.
Like literally, because sometimes when you get it like a larger screen, you can see
something different. So anyway, I tell Frank we pack up and headed home, and I said, hey, at this point it's hot, right? You know, the meat's going to be shot, but I got to get some closure to this, and tell your dad I'm gonna be here at first light, and I'll be back. So about 6:05, I come pulling up to the gate. And luckily, it was enough distance that I hope your dad had underwear on, because all I see is this figure in a window. And it's like, I don't even know. And I wave and I shut the gate and I kind of wait outside for a second. I'm hoping he's like come out. I didn't want to just. I've never seen y'all drive a vehicle back there, so I didn't want to just do it. But I was like, after about a couple minutes, I was like, he might have gone back to bed. So I drove back there, and then. So from 6, I knew it took me a half hour to get to work. So for the next 2 hours, I go back, and now it's daylight, so everything looks different. Yeah. I actually go back to the stand. I watch the video. I make my little mental marks where everything was, and I start 100% over. I'm like, okay. I actually told myself this, like, okay, now we're going to search my way, and I do my little concentric circles, and I'll go through one strip of cover. I'm like, okay, nothing there. Then there's a road in the next strip, and I knock out this strip of cover, and then I walked all by the lake, and I was like, oh, there's nothing east. Let's go west. And so I search over there, and that's how I end up way back in some nonsense after a while and just digging. And luckily this time I was smart enough to bring a denim long sleeve shirt.
Oh, yeah.
So now I'm not just shredding myself on every rose.
And you said, Frank said this area is just full of timber rattlers too. Mm-hmm. So you're just crawling around looking for.
I mean, I'll be honest. I don't know how we didn't find a snake.
Yeah.
With the stuff that we were walking through, I thought any minute somebody's gonna step on one and get bit. Something stupid.
So for about a half a second that next day. So by 8 o'clock, I had already walked almost 10,000 steps. I'm just grinding it out, trying to walk as much, search as much as I can. Before I had to leave to come to work, and I'm just already drained sweat because it's summertime in Southeast Texas. It's humid as hell. And at one point, I'm working my way back, and I don't really know y'all's property, but I've learned a lot. And
I bet. Yeah. Sounds like it.
And so I work back, and I find a feeder. I find a stand, and I find a feeder, and I catch just a little bit of movement, and it's a pretty damn good looking axis. And I'm looking at him. I'm like, man, he's close. And I take a bunch of photos and some video, and I send it over. I'm like, question mark, hey, do you think it is? And I don't know. And well, he's like, it could be the son of it or something, same genetics.
It was close.
It was really close.
It was really close. The only thing that wasn't getting it for me was the body. Mm-hmm. The body just didn't have it.
And so then that next day, or that same day, sorry, that afternoon, Frank, I guess, goes back out there and they're running around and he calls me, he goes, so you want the good news or the bad news? I'm like, well,
This is where I screwed up.
I just guess give me both. He's like, well, good news is I found him. Bad news is you didn't hit him. I was like, hell yeah.
Which kind of goes along with what, because when you came in that morning after you were looking,
Yeah. My
watching
dad,
the
my
videos,
dad was
he
convinced.
said, he's like, it's either a hit, but he had talked to your dad and he said the whole body will flinch when, when they
graze 'em.
spook.
Yeah,
Yeah. When you graze
they'll
them.
launch back and run.
So he talked to me for 10 minutes. He's pointing at the screen and he's like, you can see where it hits. You can see where it hits. Then he walks off and about 5 minutes later, he's like, it's probably just a clean miss.
I mean, I said if it wasn't a hit, exactly where I aimed, kind of low chest right behind that crease, I could have flinched. I'm not saying I couldn't have. I'm not impervious to it. And it was just shaved the bottom of the brisket, and that little flash of dirt I saw was the round missing. I said it's one of the two. It has to be one of the two.
I think even my dad said something about, like, I think he had talked to you that morning before you had left and told you, like, Jake, I'm not sure that you hit that deer.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because he had the video. He had walked a lot. I mean, good God, he's got 25, 30 years of experience on both of us.
Mm-hmm.
But so the reason I had told you that, my dad is like, he loves mowing. That's his gig. And that's how he does a lot of his deer counts. And he just rides the tractor and mows, and the deer stand 10 yards from it. Mm-hmm. And he was mowing kind of near where we were intentionally. And he saw a buck, and he was convinced it was the deer. Like, he described it to me, and he's like, it's got to be him. And he told me the group of deer he was with, like, explained to me the other bucks, and, like, described the other bucks that were there.
I would be so bad at describing an axis buck. I'd be like, all right, he's got 6 points. He's covered in spots.
Okay, I should preface this. This deer had kind of exceptional fronts, and he was overly wide. And those deer...
He was a tank.
Yeah, and his body was just... I mean, this deer had to weigh close to... If it didn't weigh 280, 300 pounds, it didn't weigh a pound.
Yeah.
So, I mean, when they get that old, their age just gives them a completely different look than the deer that Jake sent me the picture of. Their bellies just get real round. Their faces get real kind of short and blocky. It's a completely different look. And even on the horns, they get real heavy, massive. Sometimes they blade a lot. Well, this deer had some blading, but it also had just really big fronts, and it was just overly wide. And I'm assuming the deer he described to me is a different buck, which now we know it is. Mm-hmm. Because I kind of ruined that story. Because basically, Dad tells me that. Well, I'm excited.
Yeah.
So I call Jake.
I mean, there's a certain amount of relief. I mean,
yeah. Because I'm thinking that actually could have been the best outcome. Like, it sucks we spent 4 hours of looking. I mean, he's got a little embarrassment. He missed a deer, but shit, everybody misses.
Yeah. And my whole worry this time was that I've shot it in the leg, or I shot it in the gut, and now it's sick, it's suffering, it's something, right? It's not if you're going to shoot it, clean kill, right? That's what you're going for. Now it's suffering, and that I hated the way that the idea of that possibly happening.
Yeah, so about 10 minutes after I tell him that, my dad calls me back, and apparently he had mowed some more, and he caught whiff of a smell, and he knew right away. Mm-hmm. And he went in there and found the deer. He sent me a picture of it. It was dead. It looked like it died either really late Friday night or early Saturday morning from the decay of it. So immediately I'm like, fudge, I got to call Jake back. So I call him back.
Yeah, I went from here.
I could hear the depression
now there
on the phone.
Well,
I might as well have walked in here and kicked him square in the freaking nads.
Yeah. Well, it's twofold, right? One, it's nice that, hey, we figured it out, right? You know, it is dead. It's not suffering.
Yeah.
All that, but at the same time, it's a sad end to what I was. You know, everyone I was looking forward to the big trophy shot and all the meat and all the stuff with it, and now it's, you know, hey, you still got your horns, which is cool, but
Yeah.
And I know somebody can do an awesome mount for you.
Yeah.
Yes. Frank at B7B Taxidermy.
Yeah, just got to find a 300-pound cape.
Whether it's exotic or native species, he got you covered. All right.
So anyhow, I basically hopped in the truck and went straight out there because I was like, I got to see this. I got to know where he hit it. I got to figure this out. Like,
I'm at work, so this is all on Frank.
yeah. And I went out there
I love that.
and
Well, I mean, this description of it, I wasn't there for it.
and Dad's like, the first thing I get up to him and I'm like, God, that freaking sucks. And he's like, yeah, I feel bad. And I was like, why? And he's just like, I just think it was really bad luck. He goes, I think we're going to let him come out and shoot another one. I was like, okay, well, it's your place. You do whatever you want. And so we get over to the deer, and I could understand really quickly why he felt bad for him. The shot was maybe an inch low at most. It was literally right behind the crease. Like if you were to draw a straight, I know this is hard to describe, but deer have an elbow, that point. It was basically right behind that elbow, maybe 2 inches. But the problem was, because that deer was so freaking fat, number one, that's where the bullet entered, but there was no blood loss whatsoever. The cavity, you could literally see the cavity had swollen shut from fat. And the deer apparently was slightly quartered away.
Yeah. It was
And
looking from where we were sitting. It was looking right and slightly back.
Mm-hmm. And so the round entered right there behind the elbow, and I guess it must have tumbled a little bit and kind of came out on the armpit of the other leg. And the exit hole was maybe, I'm going to say $50. That's probably accurate. And it just stopped right there, which that even blew my mind, that it wouldn't have blown that freaking leg off.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't even know how that's possible.
Because when it got its legs back underneath it, it took off like just digging
Gone.
it out.
But when I mean there was no blood, I retraced that deer steps to where it was laying for probably 60 yards, and I could see it. You could see he's favoring one side. You can see him dragging that foot, and nothing, not a drop of blood, which I understand this was a day or two later, but you would still see the dried blood. You'd see ants on it. You'd see some kind of sign. There was nothing. And also, I want to preface this. This deer was found about 300 yards behind the blind we shot it out of. So that means this deer made about a 600 to 800 yard circle in the complete opposite direction of any logical person that would ever look.
And see, that's where, I mean, for all of us, everyone there were hunters. We've all tracked animals. We've all been down this road. I've been hunting my whole life, and never have I ended up finding something behind where I was. Because typically, there's that point of origin sound, or if nothing else, it hurt on my right side. I'm going to run to my left side, right?
The only thing that made sense to me, and Dad brought this up, he said what must have happened when we shot the deer, it ran with the wind in its face, because that's typically what a deer will do. And then because it could hear us looking for it, it circled and then in turn got the wind back in its face and basically was going to try and bypass us when it expired. But that whole process might have taken 2-3 hours, and I think it was from the footsteps and the tracks that I found of it, it wasn't moving really fast.
Mm-hmm.
But I will tell you this, I have never seen, I'm just going to call it like I saw it. And then to me, that was pure non-performance of a bullet.
Also known as karma.
Yeah. It looked like he tried to push a ballpoint pen through that animal.
So
That's exactly what it looked like.
were these off the shelf?
Yep.
Okay. So these weren't hand loaded with just 20 pills or anything. The LDX.
Nope. So
I guess we should preface this. They're on sale today at Circle Star for like 75%
if you want to buy a
off.
7 PRC really cheap,
well, and you know, post this hunt, I talked to Kobe about it, and he's on all the message forums and the Facebook groups and stuff like that. And he says that's becoming a real bad issue with the X bullet, is that if it's going too fast, if you're too close, that it doesn't work well in these Magnum calibers. That you need it to be.
Didn't we have the same conversation about the 6.5 Creedmoor and that bullet within 100, 150 yards?
Yeah.
Oh, I will tell you this.
ever-
And Dad said this too. And this was the first thing he said to me when we walked up to the deer. And forgive my father's age, but he looks at it and he says, "What was he shooting?" And I told him, he says, "I don't know what the hell that is," but he goes, "If he would have shot it with a 30-30, it wouldn't have went this far."
So
I mean, and that is, and sadly, that is
the same,
that is logic.
the same night, and this is
I
how
mean-
I'll always remember all this, is the same night that you shot your deer is the same night Trump attempted assassination. And I'm at a friend of ours, Dean. He's going off to the Marines. It's his going away party while they're playing this. So his mom's terrified and everything. Sure. And we're watching all the footage. And my wife, who's sitting next to me, has a cocktail, and she just turns real after she hears all of this about Jake's deer and y'all couldn't find it. She just like looks over at me and she's like, "Must have been shooting a 7 PRC," talking about the attempted assassin. And I was like, "Oh shit! I'm gonna tell him that. I'm not gonna tell him it tonight.
That's a tomorrow story.
It's definitely a tomorrow story." But that was good.
But it's one of those things.
And did we say, I don't know if we said this, but the deer was it was exactly 155 yards because I specifically remember arranging it right before you shot,
Yep. And so,
which I wouldn't call close, but I wouldn't call far.
especially for that round.
Yeah. I would say that's an average distance for hunting in our
So
area.
do you feel like he would have gone out there with a 6.5 Creedmoor, let's say 7mm 08, I know you're a bigger fan of certain calibers, or a 308, and put the bullet in the same spot, that it would have probably killed the deer? Or if it was just
I will tell you this:
bad luck
we
with-
probably would have, if let's just say a 308. If he would have shot it with a 308 and like a core lock,
well, everything dies with a core lock.
well, I'm not going to say it would have died, but I know he would have blown a big enough hole it would have bled. And I only reason I'm
sucks.
saying that is because I feel like that bullet would have had no choice but to open up at that distance.
And
And maybe maybe you hit the nail on the head. Like that bullet is just so hard constructed and that copper jacket is so thick, it's just not going to open.
there's been a lot of conversation about this in like the hunting
Trey
world.
said the exact same thing.
Is
The
that
exact same thing.
so? We talked about it on the reloading podcast about where we're chasing these super high ballistic coefficients, and to get that, we're making really long bullets.
Yep.
That if you compare it to like a 308 core lock, perfect example, they're really short and kind of fat. They're round nosed. Well, now to get increased ballistic coefficient for these, less drop, less wind drift, we're making them, in the world of the dictator, super pointy. And I think that's where we're running into some of this.
Well, I mean, my question,
expert,
question to that would be, does speed always kill? Because in that case, it didn't.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a pure. I don't know if you could have done a. I hope someone from Hornady hears this podcast. There's no way that we're the
There's
only
a really
ones.
good chance.
There's no way that we're the only ones that have experienced that.
We're not. There's
impossible.
plenty of situations out there, and I think that's, you get down here for our little deal. What I would do different, I think I would have either taken the Creedmoor with me because I have really good ammo. I know exactly how that round performs. I know what it's going to do through an animal, and I'd have been a little more confident with it. But or if I
So
would have,
that was Frank's fault.
no, it's not Frank's fault. I
Peer pressure.
I have one other piece of information I have to add to this.
All right.
So about 2 days after we recovered that axis, that buddy of mine, David, was there that helped us look for it. He has a 7 PRC, has the same ammo that Jake was shooting. And I'll be honest with you, we had long conversations about maybe he should come bring that up here and trade it in. Mm-hmm. And I said, before you do that, let's go shoot a pig. I have pigs coming every night. Let's go shoot the biggest pig we can find. And I said, I want you to shoot it exactly like you would a whitetail. He said, okay. So we did. And pig was, I don't know, maybe 130 yards, maybe 150-pound hog. And he hit it square in the freaking shoulder. Like if you could have drawn the middle of that pig's shoulder and the middle of up and down, that was where it went. He broke the shoulder on the entry side. The exit side was about a golf-size hole, and it had sucked the lungs out of it.
Holy crap.
And there was a blood trail that, I kid you not, Helen Keller could have been like, it went that way.
We talked about this. I think
she would have actually been like, and I'm going to hell.
But I think the difference between the two,
bone.
That bone slowed it down enough to do what it needed to do.
And that's the only, if you would have shot it, I think, in the shoulder.
3-4 inches forward, been a different story.
I think it would have been a completely different story.
Uh-huh. Or really what looking back, and this is what I'm in the process of right now, is actually loading up some of my own ammo, finishing my load development and creating my own hand loads with a bullet that is designed for this. It's designed to open up quick.
This is exactly why I asked you about the copper.
Yeah.
Because they are designed to open up on that faster speed.
I'd be super impressed, Jake, and it's a sign of maturity and growing up if you stick with the 7 PRC. Because in past, when we've had a negative experience with a gun,
I think it needs redemption. I want to see redemption.
Yeah.
I really do.
I'm like Andy in Toy Story. I don't want to play with you anymore.
you are. You get butt hurt, and I get it. I'm the same way.
Yeah.
But you're like,
I'm about winter, sir.
I don't like this one. And it's a good excuse. It's the caliber, right? It's not me. It's the caliber.
So Kobe's almost done with my PRC. He was running some little last tests with it this week, and I'm gonna give it one more shot before I pull that barrel and put something else in it. And I hate to say this, but if I do, I know where I'm going. Going back to the 300 Win Mag.
Yeah.
Full circle.
Yeah.
Full circle.
No, so we're gonna
Back to tried and
pull
true.
a podcast,
Golly.
like 10 episodes where you're just railing me for shooting the old man 300 Win Mag. So yeah, it works.
I don't know. I tell you what, I know it was horrible, like experience for both of us. I can't imagine what you went through, but that was a heck of a learning experience.
There's a lot.
It's a great thing. We when we as hunters and outdoorsmen, we kind of revel and appreciate the success, right? When we hit it, we knock it out of the park because you work so hard to get there. But it's just as memorable our failures, or when it doesn't go like you plan, or it runs out. In the wild, if y'all wouldn't have ever found it, hey, did it die somewhere, or
God,
you never know.
Yeah.
We'd never know.
Did it run 1,000 yards and flip over? Did you do it? There's so many scenarios. You just keep playing them over and over and over. But that's a big part of it. And the fact that we are so ethically torn when this happens, and like Jake said, he was worried about the meat and the animal suffering, and I mean that. But
that's a real worry. Yeah, that's exactly why we do it. We're not out there to just kill and get our picture and that's it.
No,
good gosh.
That one animal would have produced enough meat to feed my family for the year.
Yeah.
Or at least close to it.
Not Travis, but the rest of your
Good
family.
Not
God,
Travis.
yeah.
No, not Travis.
I don't think he's allowed over at
He can't come to my
Frank's
house
mom's
anymore. Dude, he will pretty much pull up a chair and station in front of our pantry.
Yeah.
And just go at it.
We'll talk about this on the next one where we go hunting. He's got a chicken half in one hand and a rifle in the other.
That really happened. That happened.
Man,
we're trying to go fast. She's like, "You want a plate?" And he's like, "Yeah." She's like, "Let me get him a piece of chicken." He's like, half a chicken, running down the road. I'm like, good Lord. But the other thing, try to put a positive spin on stuff. Look the glass half full, the optimist that I'm not.
is that you won't get a bigger access than me. I totally agree. This is where
it probably won't happen now, and so I'll go to my grave with a major regret because of Frank.
I don't really care how big it is.
Because of me.
I just want to kill an axis with
But
a
see, but here's the other thing though, and I think, and I don't want this to be a shameless plug for the store because it's not the intention behind it, but this is when bad stuff happens or good stuff happens. You know, we're out there, we're actually trying this stuff out, we're using the stuff that we sell. I'm not going to sell you a 7 PRC or whatever the newest, latest, greatest thing is just because it's super hot or I make a lot of money off of it.
Yeah.
I'm going to have show up and say, hey, and I did this 2 days ago. I told a guy that was buying a box of 7 PRC, I'm like, hey, how far are you shooting?
Yeah.
Because he's like, well, I've got a deer lease in Rock Springs and my feeders are 100 yards. I'm like,
No, that's not the one.
not the round for you, boss. He's like, really? I'm like, here's my experience.
And I do the same thing with a
suggest
6.5.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's why we're in this industry, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if it's not to help and educate people,
and it sucks it happened, but
It does.
if you know, shit happened to me, you know, unfortunately it happened, but it did. But now we can actually take that, and if it prevents, if somebody else wins that tag of a lifetime or that trophy of a lifetime, and they're successful because we were able to find the right thing for them or the right situation for them, that makes a major difference.
Well, that's a good. Hold on, that's a good segue. So, talking about what you learned out there on that hunt, and then you were able to make a comeback, make a rebound. Let's talk about that on the next episode.
Not me.
Hey, don't give too much away. I know we've talked a little bit about it, but we're gonna go ahead and finish that on the next episode. So we'll close up on this one.
Yeah.
Thanks for everybody for listening. I promise you the next one's great. But if y'all get a chance, like, share, tell your friends, your mom and them all about us.
Go to B7B Taxidermy on
Spread the word.
Instagram.
Yeah.
Give old Frank a follow.
Yeah, go check out.
It's enjoyable.
Frank, his place is wild. So, guys, we appreciate it, and we will be back next week to talk about kind of the ongoing saga here that we've got about halfway through.
Yeah, the Phoenix will rise. We're going to come back from the ashes. It's going to be a good time.
Awesome, guys. We appreciate you. We'll talk to you soon.
thanks, guys.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
You've been listening to the Circle Star Firearms and Outdoors podcast with your hosts Jake Cawthon and Jason Westmoreland. Be sure and subscribe so you don't miss any episodes. New episodes drop every Monday, and catch up in between episodes on the Circle Star Minute every Friday. For more information, visit CircleStarFirearms.com, or better yet, come see our great new store at 6320 Highway 90 in Anderson, Texas. Until next time, safe shooting, folks.